So that's one of the things we have announced from the US. The other speculation is around medicines. Is that something you're looking at right now?
Well, medical science and medical manufacturing is a priority area, particularly under, say, for example, our National Reconstruction Fund and our Industry Growth Program, where we're actively looking at how we can ramp up the production of either our own medicines or medical equipment. We'll wait and see what gets announced with respect to your question, but we do think it's important as a country that we are able to produce these things a lot more.
Is the scope bigger though, since obviously Donald Trump came to power and we heard about use of tariffs, but now what he's enacting actually probably goes further than some people thought. So is there a renewed focus in here? Can you broaden the scope, or what, that's just playing out and it will be what it will be?
No, I think, we've identified about 7 different priority areas that cover a lot of activity here in Australian industry, and what we need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet and be able to make ourselves. But also we got this view that, we can make things here and ship them everywhere. That we've got a lot of export markets. I mean, right to our north, 600 million people live within ASEAN markets. We have obviously the ability to work closer with them, with our friends in India, obviously the EU. There are a range of different markets where Australian products, known for their quality and their reliability, will be able to be attractive to customers in those parts of the world.
Another part of this policy talks about customers willing to pay a premium, and part of that is a so-called green premium for the way things are produced. Is that under threat? We don't know what the effect Donald Trump will have, for example, on climate agreements. Is that aspect of this policy on less certain footing right now?
Well, there are a lot of markets in the world that are thinking about how products can be made with less of a emissions and carbon footprint. And particularly when you look at green metals, the market there, it could generate for us 122 billion in revenue exports by 2040 off the top of my head, based on some of the work that's been done. So there's a big appetite for, in particular, steel and aluminium that has less of an emissions footprint to it. A lot of that stuff will take time.
But does that appetite drop at all, do you think?
I think there are a lot of countries, particularly in our region, that want to, as part of their contribution to the transition to net zero, buy our products that are made with less emissions. The whole production, for example, of green iron that then gets shipped off into another country and then turned into products as well. You see the huge emission footprint drop with that. Ultimately, as well, with the development of hydrogen, and as that starts to get factored into production as well, will have another impact on emissions long term. And so we need to do the thinking now, which is part of the reason why we've set up the 750 million innovation fund within what we've announced in the last few days.
During Labor's time in opposition, there was criticism of the coalition for its diplomacy. Megaphone diplomacy is what it was called, and that wasn't the right way to do things. Have you had any blowback for calling the tariffs on Australia from the Trump administration a dog act?
No. I mean, I speak up for our country, like a lot of us do, feel very strongly that where the country's interests have been impacted, that we should take a stand. We have worked, as you've seen, try to engage very collaboratively, very cooperatively. But if a decision is made that affects our country, we should speak up. We've done that in the past. We should do that in the future. And I just think either on the basis of fact or friendship, the decision made by the US administration in relation to steel and aluminium just doesn't stand up. If you look at how much we export into that market, in the total number of imports that they get, very tiny. And when you take into account the long-standing friendship between the two countries, you would look at how much we actually export to them. You'd take into account the long-standing nature of our relationship. You wouldn't make that call, but they did, and we have a right to respond, and we have a right to look at, well, how do we do things differently?
Minister, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Good on you, Tom.